Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahu Akbar.
Hey, dude. I don't fucking
Allahu
know.
Akbar.
All right,
Honestly,
that should
though,
work. Okay, so let's
Was the
go.
moon landing real?
Oh boy.
So there's two schools of thought, right? There's the fact that it was faked and that it was real. Obviously.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious, right? Now, I'm going to provide claims as to why they both could be right and both could be wrong. Now,
Okay.
the CGI technology of the time.
Oh boy, here we go.
How the fuck would they ever recreate that,
That's
right?
what I'm
They
saying.
would then have
What?
to
But I don't.
what's it called? Like the movies at the time, like there's no way they had the CGI or green screening technology
So,
to make something look that way,
yeah.
right? But then on the other hand, right, the amount of X-rays that are in space due to how thin the atmosphere of the moon is, right, would fuck up the recording tapes because they would have to record it on film, and it was recorded on film at the time, which would make it more degraded.
Upscaling's a thing though. Also,
There
I
was
think
no upscaling back then, nigga. The
no,
fuck?
I know now, but like, or not, or back then. Okay, my whole theory on I think there's one thing that can probably disprove it, that it was fake completely, and that's we Dylan, I'm live streaming.
Yeah, I know.
I think the one thing that was definitive was that we were in a space race, right? And if it was faked, if we faked that, why didn't the other countries like come out and try and disprove that that we actually went and all that stuff? Why wasn't that like a big major thing?
Well, because, well, do you mean like why didn't the other country just fake it?
No, why didn't they call us out if we did fake it and they could
Because-
prove it?
Because they couldn't prove it. That's like the whole debate is like, can you prove it?
Mm.
No.
So, yeah, but I mean, if you can't
I don't know.
prove
They
something,
didn't think
then
about that at the time.
yeah, I mean, if you can't prove something, then that's just having faith in something, right?
Yeah.
Like
But
religion.
also, if one of your claims was like, why didn't they just fake it, right? It's like you have to think about how much money was the U.S. had into like movie production through like Hollywood and all that at the time. Like that was like
Yeah.
our that was like the main thing.
Yeah.
Was just like controlling media, and that's why like the U.S. is like a staple for that.
That
type
was
of
the
shit.
main source of the country's income.
Yeah, well, it was income, but also like cultural influence was a really big thing. That's like a really big part of
100%, yeah.
like having Hollywood. It's like the fact that you can be like, oh, we make movies, but everyone likes movies, but you can only get movies in the U.S. It's like a monopoly of some sort.
Yeah.
But now you have things like Bollywood.
Yeah, that's true.
Ballsack.
Ballsack.
Thank you for sunshine. Thank you for rain.
Is cancer real?
Oh boy.
Yes.
Hey, alright, calm down. We're getting way too deep.
I don't. Is that deep or is that just retarded?
It's
Hey,
straight
you can't
retarded.
say that, Ara.
I can say whatever I want, except the N word.
Free speech and freedom of expression, except for when I don't like it.
Alright, I think I'm gonna go to bed.
All right, man.
Just when we start getting.
Yeah,
good,
wait. This is getting good, and now you're gonna go to bed.
Well,
Dude,
I gotta
we
wake
just-
up early.
All right, all right.
Well, okay, what do you want to talk about? I'll stay. I'll stay for 10 more minutes.
Hey Mason, why don't you scoot maybe 40 more feet closer to your microphone, please?
Have you never
Yeah,
seen?
for real.
Have you never seen Sonic Says on Instagram, bro? That's where I get all my information.
I know it's. I know what Sonic Says is. There was that one video that went really viral everywhere that was talking about the Las Vegas shooting.
You guys see the post where they say hackers have almost everybody's social number?
Okay, I genuinely think 9/11 was an inside job.
Oh my god.
Oh, here we go. This is perfect because Nick Delahaye.
It was not an inside job.
Okay,
This was like his entire
It
thing.
was literally Al Qaeda, buddy.
It was like literally. But, like,
What evidence
how?
do you have that supports that the George W. Bush administration was responsible for the September 11th attacks? Please enlighten me.
Okay, and I'm not bringing up the $1 trillion. Okay, how is it crazy? How is it crazy the fact that we couldn't recover the black box of the plane, but we miraculously found the pilot's passport like 3 or 4 blocks away from the crash scene. How does
Thousands
that
of different
happen?
things get ejected from an aircraft when it crashes. They found a lot of other things of similar nature, like belt buckles, like life jackets that were singed. They found rings. They found driver's licenses. It's highly plausible that something like a hijacker's passport, which was in the cockpit, could have been ejected from the plane when it impacted the towers.
The passport, something that was at the very front.
Yeah,
How's that?
I mean,
Are we,
the front of the
but,
plane went completely through the front of the building.
but isn't the whole point of the black box that like it's supposed to survive and evident of like a plane crash?
Okay, a black box isn't indestructible.
I never said it was
Multiple times.
indestructible.
Do you know what?
Yeah, you have to recognize what happened when
Just
the
real-
aircraft hit the building. Are you referring?
Nick, I just have a real quick
You're-
question before we continue. Do you know the impact speed?
American Airlines Flight 11, which was piloted by Mohammed Hatta, impacted the North Tower around 400 something miles per hour.
Okay. I just was curious.
And United Airlines Flight 175 hit the South Tower at an off angle at around 600 miles an hour.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but
Why did
this is
Tower
something
2
that
look
never
like
hap-
why did Tower 2 look like a
Still
controlled
looking for
demolition?
Gate 66.
Okay. Uh, so the way the World Trade Centers were designed
we have
was
the
that
prototype
they
building.
utilize their interior. It's not like a regular building where it's like wireframed up.
Yeah.
So
We've been doing
the
more
World
like
Trade Center
custom
was built to
CT66.
maximize office space.
Yeah.
So the exterior of the building was actually the columns themselves.
Gotcha.
And the interior just housed the elevator shaft. So when the planes impacted the building, it knocked out a lot of the exterior columns that were holding the building up. And as the fires burned, it made the floors actually connected the outer columns to the interior columns. And so once they started burning, they started sagging and pulling the exterior columns inward, which caused the building to collapse after, I think the South Tower was impacted at 9:03 and collapsed at 9:36. So, which is highly plausible because the reason why it collapsed because it was hit at an angle. Because Marwan Al Shea is a shit pilot.
Runway 23, Messina.
But
I
if
don't
it
know,
was
somebody else was talking.
but if it was impacted at an angle, wouldn't that corner fold first?
Well, it did.
Like it went straight. No, but it went straight down.
Yeah.
It did go straight
that-
down. Wouldn't you think that corner would kind of fold in and then it would
didn't really
fall
go
that
straight
way?
down. The top of the building really fell to the side. If you watch, there's certain angles you could see the top of the building go through the smoke.
Why did building 7 go down?
Because the North Tower fell on top of it.
No, I think it just got scared.
Yeah. Well, the building set.
He had
if you-
FOMO, bro. He was scared of missing out. He had to.
If you look at
It's like a turtle.
overhead map of the old World Trade Center complex, the North Tower is just across the street. I don't remember what street it is. I think it's Vesey Street. It's across
Okay.
from or 87th. I don't really know the
Yeah, yeah,
exact like streets, but the North Tower collapsed in a actually northerly direction as it came down, and that's directly towards the south side of World Trade Center 7. And it put a huge gash in the south side of the building. And because of the towers collapsing, the fire department evacuated the area, and there was no point in risking their lives trying to put out a fire of an empty building.
Yeah.
And it had very primitive firefighting systems. So when the North Tower, the upper part of the North Tower fell on the building, it actually cut out it destroyed all the water mains, all around the area. So they couldn't pump any water to actually put out the fire anyway.
So what about the so you're saying the outside of the building is where the main like structural support was for the
Yeah,
towers,
if
right?
you look at blueprints of the World Trade Center, that's how they were designed.
Okay,
But
and
if
and-
you basically took out all the floors of the floors which connected the interior columns to the exterior columns is like the facade. That's the gray part of the building you saw.
Mhm.
If you just removed all the floors, the building would collapse.
Gotcha. So if you removed all the floors, the building would or it wouldn't?
It very, very, very likely would collapse. Yes.
It would collapse. Okay.
Mhm.
And the floors were made out of wood, you're saying?
No, steel.
Because you keep okay.
Steel.
So steel. So last time I checked, jet fuel doesn't melt steel.
Oh, okay. So I'll just use the North Tower as an example because it lasted the longest. The North Tower was hit at a very square and at a very low speed. So unlike the South Tower, if you watch replays of it, a lot of the jet fuel and everything exits the building, and that's why you see that huge fireball.
Yeah.
So most of the plane actually exits the building, but what structurally compromises the South Tower is the angle that United 175 hit it.
Yeah.
And the reason why the jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams, things falls apart, is like the Twin Towers, is is because when the planes hit them, the North Tower at a low speed, it basically caused the floors that were directly above it to collapse down and pancake right on top of the fuselage of the aircraft, which housed and in the wings as well a lot of the fuel.
Yeah.
And so it basically made like an oven of the
Gotcha.
collapsed floors, and it just heated up to, we don't know how hot it got, but it got not enough to
Hot enough to
melt
weaken it.
Hot enough to weaken it, yes. And once
Hey.
once they started getting weakened, as the floors began to sag, they began pulling the exterior columns, the facade, inward, and that's what
Gotcha.
caused both of the buildings to collapse.
Okay, hear me out. This might be dumb, but like, what if countries like Russia and China use propaganda to like push these narratives that we did, like all these things that have happened to us are like inside jobs, to use it to turn each other against each other? Like,
Well,
what if
it would
that's a
be
thing?
it would be a conflict of interest because Russia and China after 9/11 were very supportive of any U.S. Retaliatory action.
Well, but that's
Could-
because they wanted the oil.
No, not at all. The war on terror didn't even start with Iraq. It actually started with the invasion of Afghanistan, and
Well,
Chinese
but
and
wouldn't-
Russians
But they were
historically
from-
invaded Muslims for a very long time.
Hadn't we
But
been,
weren't they
like,
from Saudi Arabia?
Shit had been going on
Yes,
over there
Saudi.
since like the
Why-
80s, hadn't it?
Why did
We got
Whoa,
involved.
whoa, one at a time. Okay.
What about
Well-
the CIA and the heroin in the, like South Asian
Oh,
Sea?
Well, CIA and heroin is like a perfect mix because they actually did give this guy named Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, who was a commander in the Taliban. They gave him millions of dollars to fight against the Soviets, and just say, okay, here's a bunch of money, and they gave it to him, and he actually spent it all on heroin trafficking.
But couldn't he have gotten the heroin from the CIA? Okay, hear me out, right? The CIA gives him
Wh-
money, right? After he gets the money, right, the CIA can't technically give him heroin. What he really wanted was heroin. So the CIA gives him money and then he buys heroin off of the CIA. It's like money laundering, but heroin.
I mean, a lot of this is just like kind of alleged stuff. Like, there's not a lot of historical evidence that proves it, but there is like a lot of interesting things that happen that may or may not prove
Thank you.
United States involvement in drug trafficking. So, for example, like the Contras in the 1980s, the United States, because of an arms embargo with Iran, they tried basically to get around it by sending arms. This is not a very good telling of the story, just a warning. They basically try to give money to the Contras, which was prohibited at the time. The Contras in Nicaragua, and they try to send money to Iran, and Iran gives the money to the Contras. So it was the Iran-Contra affair.
Mm.
But there were some allegations that the CIA paid the Contras in drugs, or may not have helped Pablo Escobar at times.
Have a good night. We'll see you, Boutique 866.
What are the other questions?
Other questions for the jury? Hear me out, right?
Let's stay on topic. 9/11.
Oh, I was talking about drugs now.
Yeah. What did y'all say? Mason said something about like Russia and China. Well, Russia and China
Mason's
were
not
really-
here right this second.
Well, what were you saying then, Ricky?
I don't think. Oh, okay.
You said something about Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you why we invaded the wrong country at first. What was that?
Well,
Because does
we
that make
invaded the
any
right
s-
country first?
which was
Uh,
what?
Was Osama bin Laden flown
back.
out of the country
Hear
by
me
the
out.
U.S. government the day before 9/11 happened?
Hear me out.
No,
I don't think-
prop up the U.S.
Osama bin
economy.
Laden was in was in Afghanistan during 9/11.
Well, no, wasn't it like before? Like he was.
Of course. I mean, wouldn't it make
No.
sense that
Or, like,
drugs
his
propped
brother,
up
I can't
the?
remember. But weren't they flown
Okay.
out by the government?
he was never under any United States like custody at any time during his life.
Gotcha.
So Bin Laden was the he's son of a Saudi billionaire. Really, this Osama bin Laden Sr. was this construction mogul in Saudi Arabia.
Wait,
And
that
as bin
motherfucker's a
Laden grew
junior?
older and got all of his inheritance. He went to
It's hilarious.
yes, he's a junior.
That is so funny to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, his dad was basically in bed with the Saudi royal family.
Oh my god.
And
Okay.
he built all the palaces for them. All the big roads you see in Saudi Arabia is very likely built by the Bin Laden construction group. They still exist today. He had a lot of sons. Okay, he procreated with a lot of different women and
He's
had multiple
Muslim,
different
of
wives.
course, right?
But anyways, the young
cock is very
Osama
big.
grows up and he becomes radicalized over time. It's not really unclear how. He went to a bunch of different universities where the Muslim Brotherhood may have been prevalent, but he ends up going to Afghanistan for a time, and he's actually given money by the CIA because he's a commander in the Mujahideen, which is a resistance group to the Soviet invasion that happens in the 1980s against the communist government in Afghanistan. And he basically builds up a lot of fighters for this Mujahideen. And wait, sorry, I gotta check my phone for a second. All right. So basically, he's a commander for the Mujahideen. He basically makes this kind of like propaganda that it's only you can be a good Muslim if you come and join this fight against these devil invaders. And he basically says, oh, how there's a great death. Like, he tells stories of how when he was fighting there, a bunch of doves came out of the sky and shielded them from Soviet bombs and stuff like that. And talked about how when a Mujahideen fighter was killed, his body was beautiful when it died. But when a Soviet soldier died, it was all stiff and destroyed. And he tells, like, bullshit like that.
Okay.
And he uses that to attract a lot of poor Arab men to come and fight for him because he has a lot of influence with all the money he has. He's a big name. Did you hear about this? Hear about this guy in Afghanistan who's fighting this war? We're all poor and we don't have anything better to do. We're all uneducated, son, and go fight in Afghanistan. So thousands of people go and fight for Bin Laden, and then after the Soviet war ends, the Taliban take control, and the Taliban is different from Al Qaeda. And Bin Laden and his best buddy, who he becomes to know, this doctor named Ayman al-Zawahiri, they become best buds, and along with some other guys, they form their own organization that's separate from the Taliban and made up of veterans from the Afghan war against the Soviets. And he calls it Al Qaeda, the base. And he lives there for a long. He stays in Afghanistan for a short period of time, and he goes back to Saudi Arabia for a while, and then he goes to Sudan. He wants to live a very primitive life. He wants to be like a farmer, kind of, and that's basically what Al Qaeda is in the 1980s and early 1990s. And as developments are happening, especially with United States support for Israel, and then eventually the United States kicks Saddam Hussein's army out of Kuwait when they invade in 1993 or something. They invade then, and he doesn't like that very much that the Saudis, who he's always been loyal to, picked the United States to help defend themselves from Saddam's invading army instead of his Al Qaeda fighters. He doesn't like that very much, so he starts speaking about how the Saudis are
It
in
was
bed.
1991.
It was
Sorry.
1991. My bad. I get it mixed up with this other terrorist attack that happened in 1993. That's also important.
I had to say that. I was talking in the night.
It was in 1991. Yeah. So he gets very mad and he starts speaking out against the Saudi royal family. And eventually, this King Faisal. They all have weird names, Faisal, Turkey, all that stuff. They come to him and they're like, "You better shut up, dude." And he doesn't, and they end up revoking his citizenship. And then because there was this guy named Omar Abdul Rahman, he was they call him the Blind Sheikh. He's dead now. He was an Islamic terrorist, and he hired this guy who was an expert in bomb making and wanted to kill the Pope, named Ramzi Youssef. And he spoke, the Blind Sheikh spoke at this church in the United States. How he got to the United States was he was in Sudan, and he walked into a U.S. consulate, and he walked out with a tourist visa. And he goes to the United States, and
Did he speak at a First Baptist? Sorry.
I don't know the specifics of like
I thought that would
Omar
be
Abdul
funny.
Rahman spoke, but he was around the Brooklyn, New York
It was
area.
funny. I laughed.
But anyways, Abdul Rahman basically starts spewing a lot of jihadist, Salafist, Islamist, fundamentalist Islamist rhetoric, and this is different from traditional Islam. It's a lot more militant. Basically, there's different interpretations on what jihad is. Jihad, most Muslims think that it's a holy war within to
Muhammad
rid
jihad.
yourself of the temptations from the devil. But Islamists, Islamic fundamentalists like Bin Laden and Omar Abdul Rahman and Ayman al-Zawahiri, these kind of original creators of Salafi jihadism, think that jihad is actually physical fighting against people who are invading Muslim lands. And so there's two forces in Islam. There's basically Allah and the devil. And if there's anything that might represent the devil to them, it would be the United States. Because they are in Muslim lands, they are invading Muslim lands, so-called.
No.
But they came to Saudi Arabia basically because the United States would give Saudi Arabia military defense in exchange for oil.
So that's kind of like Native Americans all over again.
Kind of, sort of. But anyways, Omar Abdul Rahman is in the United States. He hires this guy, Ramzi Youssef, and Ramzi Youssef rents this Ryder truck, and he drives it into the base of the World Trade Center with a bunch of bombs in it, and it blows up, and it scares everybody, and so the United States starts cracking down on Islamists in the United States, and they capture Abdul Rahman, and they discover where he got his his U.S. travel visa. And they talk to Sudan, and they're like, okay, you've got a terrorist problem. You need to kick all these terrorists out. And then Bin Laden, who has a lot of influence in the Sunnis government, says he doesn't like that. And then they were looking at Bin Laden for a long time now for supposed involvement in some different terror attacks. But eventually the Sunnis government, under the threat of sanctions at the time, kicks Bin Laden out. And no country will accept him except for, you guessed it, Afghanistan and the Taliban. And basically, with all his money and his big bucks, he says that he'll build Mullah Omar and all these guys of the Taliban beautiful palaces.
Hello?
Oh, he cut out.
He cut out.
No.
Dude, the U.S. government, they got him.
But not really, because what he's saying is all lining up with.
I
I know.
want to ask him about the misplacing of the $1 trillion. I want to know if that's just like a really, really big coincidence that it was the day before.
And that they somehow
I-
hit the economic place of the Pentagon.
I want to I really feel like it was just a really, 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 really bad coincidence that it happened the day before. I really feel like that's.
I mean, so my dad
everybody
builds
always
buildings
brings
for a
that up.
living, right?
The picture you sent me on Snapchat, sap.
Yeah. So he builds buildings for a living. He has looked at the blueprints for what's it called, the World Trade Center, like a lot, because he's super into that, like stuff like that. He just finds it interesting, and he just I think his take on it is that the impact wasn't strong enough to take down the entire building, and I'm pretty sure his Oh my god, I'm flipping over. I think his take was
Oh, my bad.
something. Oh, hey, there you are. Continue with what
Uh,
you were saying.
Oh, about Bin Laden or the
Um,
$2
no, I don't. We lost you for a minute there.
Yeah, I think my my Xbox is probably overheating because of College Football 25.
Oh, okay.
Let me close it.
Okay.
I want you to continue where you left off on what's his face, and then
Bin
I'll ask
Laden?
you about
Where did he? Okay.
So Bin Laden goes to the 1990s, and he really hates the United States. Partly because of what they did to him in Sudan, kind of forcing the Sudanese to kick him out. And his biggest gripes with the United States is their support for Israel and the presence of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia who were enforcing a no-fly zone in the northern and southern parts of Iraq uh, at the time because that was a stipulation of the end of the Gulf War. And the U.S. troops are staying in Saudi Arabia instead of leaving. And he really doesn't like that. And so he has all these Arab men left over, and it's basically a criminal organization. If you think about the mafia, it's pretty much the exact same way it works. He has this guy named Mohammed Atif, who's his military commander,
Yeah.
and they start planning different attacks. There's this guy named Walid bin Atash. You probably heard him in the news recently. If you haven't, doesn't matter.
I haven't, but okay.
He's this guy who lost his leg in the war in Afghanistan,
Okay.
and the CIA and a lot of other people call him Long John Silver because he only has one leg.
That's fucked. All right, continue.
But his war name is Khalad, and
Okay.
basically, Bin Laden really wants to strike the United States where it would hurt most, but something that's cost effective. So the '93 bombings in the World Trade Center happen, and coincidentally, there's another bombing, I think in 1995, called the Khobar Towers bombing. So basically, there's this big troop barracks in Saudi Arabia that are housing a bunch of U.S. troops, and these, I don't know, it's still not clear if Bin Laden was responsible for it because of what happened after, but I'll get to that in a second. These guys drive a truck up to these barracks, they blow it up, and it kills a bunch of U.S. Troops. And the FBI goes to investigate it, but before they can get there, the Saudis execute every last one of people they expect to be responsible for it. But anyways, after it happens, Bin Laden's like, "Oh, what a great deed! This is magnificent." And the FBI and CIA make their own. Well, the CIA specifically makes their own organization called the Bin Laden Unit, and they have a whole department just devoted just to tracking him. And he just spends his time in Afghanistan around training camps that he's built himself. Just training Al Qaeda fighters who really they want to become martyrs. So there's this big martyrdom is what I was talking about earlier. How you die a beautiful death, and it's just where the thing about the virgins come in,
yeah.
stuff about that, and they believe it, and it's factually false. I mean, it's not 100% false. The virgin stuff is true. There are houris, which are like beautiful virgin women in paradise, which is the Islamic heaven. But he says basically, if you are a sinner, you can skip purgatory, which is like when you pay for your sins.
Yeah.
You can skip purgatory by coming and fight for me and dying for Islam.
Okay.
So all these people who they're poor, they think, oh, I'm a sinner and that's why I'm poor. And so they're poor and they go and fight for him. They go enjoy these training camps. And in 1998, Bin Laden hires a bunch of guys, and he has connections all over the Arab world. And the Arab world is basically all of northern Africa. It kind of stretches down into Somalia, and obviously the Arab Peninsula, Iran, and now Al Qaeda is a Sunni Muslim organization. So Sunnis believe a certain thing about who's the successor that the Prophet Muhammad chose. And you'll hear this thing about Sunnis and Shias disagreeing. There's Shia Muslims, and they disagree on who the successor of Bin Laden, not Bin Laden, the Prophet Muhammad is. But in 1998, I'll get back on track. These guys in very coordinated attacks blow up the U.S. embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. It's basically what Bin Laden wants to do is he wants to get the United States to come and fight him, so he can drag him into the same war that happened in with the Afghans and the Soviets, because Afghanistan has long been known as the graveyard of empires, where empires come to die, because it's incredibly hard to fight a conventional war in, and he wants to basically experience the joy he had back during the Soviet war. And so he wants the U.S. to come and fight this unwinnable war against him so he can, I don't know. It's for money purposes, really. He just wants to make money. He basically ends up becoming broke after a while because a lot of his family members basically oust him from the company of his shares in the Bin Laden, the Saudi Bin Laden group, I think it's what it's called. So he ends up running out of money, but he has enough money to. So they blow up the embassies, and they really don't like it. But it happens at a oddly weird time in U.S. politics. It happens at the exact time Bill Clinton is embroiled in the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Yeah.
And to look presidential while it happens, he sends a bunch of missiles to training camps, suspected Al-Qaeda training camps in Afghanistan, as well as the Al-Shifa pharmaceutical factory in Khartoum, Sudan, which actually made a lot of the medicine in Sudan at the time, and actually had nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. They sent a missile to it and it blew it up, and then there was widespread disease in Sudan for quite a while after because of that. But they send a bunch of missiles, and it makes a bunch of martyrs when it blows up a bunch of Al-Qaeda fighters, and they see like, oh, the U.S. is invading. Everyone looks up at the lines like, oh, you were right. The U.S. is the devil. They're trying to kill us again. And so now thousands more Arabs come to fight for Bin Laden. And the way they do this is they usually wherever they originate, they travel to Pakistan if they have a passport. Somehow they get in the country. They go to Pakistan, and then they take either by foot, horseback, or car. They go to the northern part of Pakistan, which is basically lawless. And they cross the border, which is called the Duran Line, between Afghanistan and Pakistan. They cross the border, and they just go to Al-Qaeda camps there.
Okay.
And so thousands more come, and some particular men, actually, there's these Western men from Europe who are living in Europe at the time. Their names are Muhammad Atta, Marwan al-Shehi, and Ziad Jarrah. They're these students in Hamburg, Germany, who are studying for Western degrees. And they've become disillusioned at the time because they don't really like the United States. They're far away from their Muslim roots, that they're Jarrah's from Lebanon, al-Shehi's from the UAE, he's from Ras Al Khaimah, which is this really small village with a bunch of goats. And Atta is from Cairo.
Mm-hmm.
And they're far away from home, and they basically form this like clique. And they're in basically a very sinful area of Hamburg, a very unauthoritarian version. There's prostitutes and everything. So very un-Islamic things they're surrounded by. Over time, they isolate themselves and they become disillusioned. They watch the news, and through a certain mosque called the Al-Quds Mosque, they are exposed to this very militant form of Sunni Islam, the exact type of Islam that Bin Laden preaches. And they watch these videos of these basically Muslim preachers talking about, you need to go fight in Chechnya and in Palestine as well, and become a martyr. And eventually, over time, they realize how worthless their degrees are. And over time, they eventually make their way to Pakistan, and eventually actually speak to Bin Laden himself. Al Qaeda is actually just an organization of around 1,000 people, like actual members that have pledged allegiance to Bin Laden. And they meet Bin Laden himself, and they've got this new plan of attack they want to do, and it's called the Plains Operation. And so back, if you remember me talking about Ramzi Youssef, he had this. He was the guy that Omar Abdul Rahman hired to go and blow up the World Trade Center. And Youssef had this plan to bomb a bunch of planes that were crossing the Pacific Ocean towards and away from the United States, all at once, called the Bojinka Plot. And it also included a plan to, kill the Pope and fly a Cessna that had a bunch of bombs in it into CIA headquarters. And then Ramzi Youssef's, I think, uncle is a guy named Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is this. He went to school in the United States. He went to North Carolina Agricultural or Technical College. He's Western educated. He's a very, very smart man. Not dick riding him, but
No.
he's Western educated. He knows the ways of life in the United States, and he's become very disillusioned, kind of like Bin Laden himself. And
Yeah.
he's been speaking with Bin Laden for some time about some sort of planes operation, and Bin Laden's like, no, it's too ambitious. You can't. He even wants to hijack a plane, kill all the men on board, and then make a speech denouncing U.S. support for Israel, and then let all the women and children go. All the while, all the plane stuff is blowing up and all that stuff. All at the same time. It's a really ambitious plan. And Bin Laden's like, you're a fucking idiot. No one's ever going to be able to do that. And over time, they downscale it. It's like, why don't we just fly planes into buildings? Like, instead, what's the point of trying to get a nuclear weapon? Bin Laden really wanted to get his hands on biological weapons and dirty bombs and stuff like that, but he never could. So Khalid Sheikh Mohammed figures, why don't we, just fly planes into buildings? And right when they're discussing that, these 3 Western-educated men come right to these Al Qaeda camps, and they're like, "Hey, we want to become martyrs," and they're like, "We've got a perfect job for you." And they eventually they pledge allegiance to Bin Laden. There's video of it on the United States. They make their last will.
Uh-oh. He just won again.
Learning a lot.
They'll be on the. There's this guy named Ramzi bin al-Shib, who's this Sudanese guy who has a really shady immigration history, who wants to become a hijacker in this plot, this planes operation. That's what they call it. They always call it the planes operation. And al-Shib is these Western men, they figured of Atta al-Shehi and Jarrah, they figured they'd be perfect for the plot because A, they're Western educated, and 2, because they're from these not terroristy Middle Eastern countries. It'd be very easy for them to get U.S. passports and visas. Well, specifically visas. And they immediately, when they get back, they apply for all these visas. And Jarrah, actually, when he goes back, is almost caught because when he gets pulled aside at the TSA, and I think it's Bahrain, and they look through his book bag, and he's got a bunch of like posters of Bin Laden and videos, and I think the people in Bahrain call the United States like, we got this guy here, he's kind of crazy, and they say just let him go. And Jarrah, al-Shehi, and Atta all go back to Germany, which is where they lived at the time.
Yeah.
And basically make their arrangements to end their lives, to become martyrs.
Yeah.
And they go back to Afghanistan once more to train more. But Otto is actually the smartest of the bunch. He can actually speak really good English. He's a engineering student. And they notice when he gets back, he's really aloof and weird. His roommates always hated him because he would boil potatoes and peel the skins off and mash them all together and then stick it in the refrigerator when he was done. And then it would affect the taste of everything his roommates had. And so, anyways, they get back to Germany, and they're all really crazy. And Al Shehi, I think one of his teachers asked him, "Well, what do you want to do with your life?" And then he says something like, "Oh, you're gonna see it on the news. You will know my name," stuff like that. And the teachers, they never do anything about it. And Otto's really, they all become extremely, extremely radicalized to the version of this militant version of Sunni Islam that Bin Laden preaches. And as they go back to Germany, they all apply for U.S. visas and they receive them. And they eventually make their way to the United States, to Florida. And they begin training to become commercial pilots in Florida. And I mean, you know how it ends. So it's pretty much what happens. That's how 9/11 happens.
I feel like
That's a really dumbed down version of what happens. There's a lot in between. But I have a podcast episode just about it. You can listen to it.
Hey, this
there
guy's
you go.
plugging himself.
there you go.
It's called The Faces of Infamy, Unmasking the 9/11 Hijackers. It's everything you need to know. It's an hour and 8 minutes long.
Pretty chill name.
No.
actually.
Where can you find it at?
I still think
Spotify.
9/11 was an inside job.
Spotify. Here we go.
To each their own. To each their own. I agree with some
No, I'm
statements.
just-
I think a lot of things are very fishy about it. But I think
I
the
think
reason
it's
for
really
it is because
fishy.
it's something that it's never happened before, and it's something that's so incredible in a sense, like bad, like incredible and big.
Yeah.
Like it's something that had never happened before. Nothing ever that scale had ever happened before. Maybe as far back as Pearl Harbor.
I don't think. Do you think it'll happen again?
Happen again? I mean, there's no real way to know, but if it's going to involve planes, most definitely not. They'll have to find something else that will do that amount of destruction, and it's looking like there's not going to be unless it's a nuclear weapon.
Do you think the Middle East has nuclear weapons right now?
But yeah, Iran has nuclear weapons.
I'm so
Saudis have
uneducated
nuclear
about
weapons.
who's got them and who doesn't, so I don't.
Iran's not supposed to have them, but they have them.
Well, they have very crude
Yeah.
nuclear weapons. They only have nuclear weapons that can hit Israel. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of how 9/11 happened. That's like a really condensed version. I mean, I could tell you about what the hijackers did in the U.S., but I mean, it's not
I
really
think we know.
anything
Yeah.
like crazy. They live normal lives. They blend in with society. They become pilots for the whole operation cost Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And the reason I was talking about Ramzi bin al-Shib is because he actually applies to become a U.S. citizen, not a citizen, to get a visa. And he's rejected because they think he's going to become an economic migrant, which means someone who goes to, like, let's say I'm from Mexico. I just go and get a high-paying job in the U.S., and then I take all my money and go back to Mexico. It's kind of like brain drain, in a
I
sense.
love brain drain. I love brain drain. Brain drain is such a cool like concept.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it's
What's
basically
brain
just,
drain?
instead of spending your money in the United States, you go back. They think he's going to be an economic migrant, so they deny him the visa. But he ends up becoming the middleman to pass messages along from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the military planner of Al Qaeda, through Ramzi bin al-Shib in Europe to Atta and the others in the United States. And Jarrah, on multiple chances, he's actually Al-Shehi was married, but it was an arranged marriage that was really fishy. It was one of those really weird things they did back then. But Jarrah is actually has a very westernized marriage with this woman named Aysel Sengun. And she's a Turkish woman. And she basically lived through Jarrah's descent into madness. And he was actually considering on multiple occasions dropping out of the plot altogether, like as late as like summer 2001.
I got stuck.
And they actually the whole plot could have been uncovered a month before 9/11 because Al Qaeda hires their last resort, this guy named Zacharias Moussaoui. It's this he's this black French dude, has Algerian roots, who's really, really, really dumb. He's not a really good terrorist. In
Hang
a
on, guys. I'll
sense.
be right back. Keep talking.
Parker Titsworth.
Hello.
He's not. Uh,
Still
Masawi is not
streaming.
a
I'll
very
just be
good
right back.
terrorist. Masawi is not a very good terrorist, and he goes to this. They bring him up to speed on all the terrorist stuff they want to do, like go to flight school and stuff. And he wants to become a hijacker pilot because they don't have anybody to fly in the Pentagon at the time. They end up finding this Saudi Arabian guy who went to the University of Arizona who wanted to become a commercial pilot. This guy named Hani Hanjour. Real daft and weird looking dude if you look up pictures of him. He wanted to be a pilot for some Saudi Arabian airlines, and his flight training history was really fishy because to be a pilot in the world, you have to be able to speak the standard language, which is English, and he could barely speak English. And on that basis, when he had tried to apply for all the airlines, they rejected him. And he became really depressed, and then he started watching terrorist videos, and then he goes to Pakistan, like, I don't know exactly when, I think it's around summer of 2001, and they're like, we got a job for you. Because these two other idiots, these guys named Khalid Al-Midhar and Nawaf Al-Hazmi, they were originally going to be the pilots of this plane that hits the Pentagon. And they're really dumb. They actually go to Malaysia and get tracked by the FBI and CIA, meeting that Long John Silver guy, Khalid Walid bin Atesh. In this, they call it the Malaysian Summit. Basically, they give Al-Midhar and Hazmi the plans for 9/11. This is before Atta and all of them really become deep in the plot. And they go over to the United States and they slip through the fingertips of the CIA. The CIA actually never reported to the FBI that they were in the United States, which is a really big mistake. Because the FBI takes a lot of jurisdiction over investigations like this. And Al-Midhar just
Okay, I'm back.
and Al-Hazmi hang out in the San Diego area in California. And they take flight training, and the flight instructor recalls them like saying praying to Allah while they were landing, and saying like, oh, I want to learn how to fly commercial airliners when they haven't had like a minute of experience in a single seater, four-seater training aircraft. So it's really suspicious, and to avoid suspicion, they go away. But they end up meeting this guy named Omar al-Bayoumi, who's this Saudi Arabian consulate. And this is actually a really big talking point of, there's this big not investigation, but lawsuit of the 9/11 victims' families against the government of Saudi Arabia because they thought Saudi Arabia was complicit in 9/11. They knew 9/11 was happening and they didn't do anything to stop it. Or even they may have aided and abetted the 9/11 hijackers of Al-Midhar and Al-Hazmi through this guy named Omar al-Bayoumi. He basically becomes a homemaker to them, gives them an apartment, signs like the leases for them, pays their rent, and they just go to strip clubs and drink and act stupid. They basically blow off all the money for the plot while they're in California, and then when they're basically infatuated with Western life, pretty women, strippers, all the sins you could think of in Islam, they're doing. They're drinking alcohol. And when I imagine it's probably Khalid Sheikh Mohammed gets through to him, he's like, oh, how's it going? And they're like, oh, it's going great. Well, while all this other stuff's going in the background, and they like, well, we're sending there's new management in town, and the new management is Atta and all of them.
Yeah.
So Al-Hazmi and Al-Midhar end up being regulated to just being muscle hijackers. But yeah, they spend quite a bit of time in the United States from summer of 2000 to when what they called 0 hour in September 2001. So yeah.
Well, that was good. I enjoyed that. Rye, I don't know if you're here.
I'm here, honestly.
What are
bro.
you?
It's so much talking. It's just whenever it's just one person talking for that long, I can't focus.
ADHD head
Yeah,
ass.
it's a lot of
The
blabbering.
thing is, you didn't listen.
ADHD head ass.
I kind of I zoned out of the conversation after
If
like.
you want something
It's-
that's like true crimey and interesting, that's not as boring as me talking, a lot
It's
more
not boring.
structured.
It's not boring. It's just that it's late at night and I have like other like social things going on and other people texting me.
Yeah, I gotta wake
right?
up at
And
8
it's a
a.m.
lot of like Muslim names which all sound the same, so it makes it hard for me to follow.
Well, a lot of them are war names, so it's not really. And their real names are even longer. Like
Yeah.
Muhammad Atta's name is like Muhammad Al Sayyid Awad Al something Atta.
Yeah.
His real name was actually Muhammad Al Amir, but he just
As
puts Atta, which is his father's name, on
as
his
somebody
visa.
as somebody who has done so much research on this topic, and you seem to, I don't know if this is true or not. Do you know a lot about Islam?
Quite a bit.
What are your
Not traditional, like
yeah?
there's pillars. There's pillars of Islam. It's how you should live your life.
So you
but
don't
this Islam I'm talking about isn't really Islam. This is
you don't think
like
that's
I said in the beginning.
okay?
No, it is not Islam. It is a very, very perverted version of it. Like I said in the beginning, it's basically Bin Laden's like elevator pitch of how to get people to come fight for him. And the best way he does it is saying you could skip purgatory altogether by just coming and die for me.
Yeah,
And it's completely violates a lot of. I mean, you can read
but
thousands of pages of Islamic scholars who denounce and basically contradict a lot of the stuff that Bin Laden says.
but
And prove
you know,
it wrong.
maybe I know I'm very uneducated on this topic. I only know of Christianity and stuff as a religion, but why does it seem like it's so violent in those countries against women, against gays, against anything that is not a
Well,
male and somebody in power? Why is it so? It just seems so violent to me.
it's it's a very it depends on where you are.
No, of course it does. No, I
Islam
know.
is I mean the way Islam is preached and practiced in Canada is very different from what is preached in herbal Iraq.
Of course, because what is
It's a
legal
very
in herbal Iraq is not legal in Canada because
well, a lot
right?
of these places it's I mean there's a lot of different ways of thinking in Islam. It's just like Christianity. There's a lot of stuff is open in interpretation, and it just some people interpret it differently, and that's what Bin Laden did. I know some of its stuff seems violent, but a lot of the stuff you see is just it's not real Islam. Like it's a
A lot
very
of people
very
make the
it's either
argument that the violent stuff is real Islam and that the people that,
it's
for example, are living
well
here
it's
are not actual Muslims because they don't practice that same sort of stuff. But I think with that argument, you could also say that people who have sex outside of wedlock and do a lot of stuff that God doesn't want you to or Jesus doesn't want you to aren't real Christians for, or whatever. I
yeah
like
I mean
I am talking about this from a completely outside perspective. I grew up in a Christian household. I am not, but I'm just observing, you know what I mean? So,
yeah I know what you're saying. I mean a lot of I mean Islam itself is a conservative religion. A lot of the stuff they look back on is it's the they talk a lot about the stuff of how it was then, and so a lot of people may interpret stuff literally. I mean, there's a lot of different opinions, and I don't want to say something that's like not factual, but like stuff like the Taliban, those people are extremely ultra conservative,
yeah.
Islamic values. Like they talk about stuff like how it was back when like the Prophet Muhammad was. They want to rule like how it was then. They don't adapt to societal and changes.
Yeah.
And you can read a lot about Muslim scholars who see different things about it. There's a lot who completely denounced how the Taliban rule things. Now, I mean, you could see a lot of comparisons to Christianity where, some may believe that, the purpose of a woman is to be a homemaker. And you could see parallels with that in Islam as well. But it depends on how far they want to go with it. Like, the Taliban believe women are homemakers, but they also believe, they're second to men. and
Is there-
they should be veiled from head to toe at all times to because they think that like sexual attraction and horniness is a sin, is the devil trying to get through to you. Like I said, there's two forces in Islam. There's
Yeah.
Allah and the devil, and if the devil is involved in any part of your life, it's bad news for you.
Mashallah.
And the mission of Islam is to basically is a Islam like is kind of a jihad in itself. Jihad is like the struggle within to rid yourself of the temptations of the devil. That's what jihad is. And there's that interpretation of what it is. You could read the Wikipedia article on it. It's like
Dude,
1,000 pages.
That's so confusing then. Okay, so you're talking about jihad as like the struggle about like against like temptations within you, right?
Yes, but some
then-
believe that it's a physical war to
Yeah,
rid.
yeah. I remember you
Yeah.
saying that. But what I'm saying, right? If you bring that back to the sexual thing about how women are supposed to be veiled, right? Isn't the
Mhm.
process of veiling them just like a way of like avoiding your problems? Because like if you still have the sexual attraction, right, when they're unveiled, right, wouldn't the proper thing to be, instead of changing them, it would be changing yourself to not feel that way about them? But
Yeah,
instead all they're
logically, but
doing
they're
is just
not
hiding it?
logic. They don't. That's the
That's not-
point of a lot of people, is that it's not a logical ideology.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just
That's the
saying, I
point.
found
That's the
that
point
funny.
with a lot of people
I'm
with
just, like-
religion, is that
like I
it's
said, I'm half listening. I just found that like interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's dozens of different Islamic interpretations, just as there are Christian interpretations. And the Muslims have fought each other for thousands of years over this.
so there's
been-
different pillars. So like with Christianity, or the belief in Jesus and God, there's Catholics, there's Protestants. So there's all those different ones, and you're saying that there's a bunch of like all
Mhm.
those different ones with Islam, right?
Yeah, there's there's 5 pillars in Islam.
Okay.
You basically have to you have to basically devote yourself to Allah. You have to pray all the time, and you have to
Facing
be
Mecca.
you have to be a philanthropist in a way. You basically have to give to other Muslims.
Yeah.
You have to fast during Ramadan, and then once in your life you have to go to Mecca for the pilgrimage.
Gotcha.
Those are the 5 pillars.
Shouldn't the right thing to be is that Mecca is open to everybody? It shouldn't be like closed off or whatever.
Oh, well, it's a holy city of Islam, and I think if people, it depends. It's very, very, it's a very controversial topic.
Hmm.
That's basically where my knowledge of Islam ends.
Okay.
So, if you're asking me other questions on it, I'm gonna be kind of like looking
Yeah.
at ChatGPT. So,
As so you being in history, do you learn a lot about religion as a whole?
well, ever since I've started focusing a lot on, my focus is really basically United States history from 1950 to present.
Okay.
But I've kind of really found a love of Middle Eastern history. But religion, really, it's only my study of Islam. It is only really starts and ends with the really radical militant form of like Bin Laden stuff.
Do
It's
you?
I haven't really studied a lot of the traditional stuff, but I
Yeah.
can say for a fact it's very black and white, the difference.
Okay. What about other religions? Any study in that at all?
No, not really.
No.
I mean, I know about Confucianism and stuff. I mean, I can't really speak about that, but
What is that? I've never even.
it's a really
Do you have, like, a
complicated religion.
definition?
It's origin. It has Chinese origins, but my professor, my advisor, Dr. Harris, he's fluent in Chinese, and he lived in China for a long time. He could probably tell you more about Confucianism than me, but it's one of those like kind of meditating kind of religions.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's one of those kind of like Buddhist Indian origins.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, but my knowledge of religion is limited to mostly jihadist.
Okay.
Just because I mean, for the last like 2 years of my life, I've just been that's all I've been reading about.
Yeah. Okay.
How I remember their names, I don't know.
Probably has some
I
bit
can
of
tell
a
you.
photographic memory. I don't know. Uh, Probably should have written some questions down. Um, Mason, is he here? No, he's deafened. Um, does Dylan want to chime in at all? I think he's
We have an intellectual discussion.
busy. Can't really trying to think of something. Ooh, boy.
I'm flying the PC-12. Fuck you.
Ooh, what is Ooh, you want to do free will, and then we can both argue and both be right at the same time?
If this is philosophical stuff, I haven't even taken a philosophy class yet, so
Well,
I'm pretty.
I'm down to talk about it. I've never taken
You don't have
anything.
to take a philosophy class to understand philosophy. Philosophy is like kind of just something everybody has.
It's just thoughts, right? I
Philosophy
mean,
is
it's
like,
fuck.
well, philosophy is literally just what you think, right? You don't need a class to tell you how to think. You can use a class to label how you think, sure, but you labeling how you're thinking, like that's only a part of it, Like everyone
Yeah,
can come up with their own labels.
yeah. You strike me as a very philosophical person, right? Like you, I think is this right? Like you tend to question a lot of things about life and
Well, I just understand, or like I spent a very long time trying to understand why I do certain things, and in my search for why I spent a very long time trying to figure out why other people do certain things, right? And in my search of like trying to understand how other people worked, it taught me about how myself worked as a human, because I'm very good at comparing things and finding differences and noticing like abnormalities, etc., right?
yeah, yeah.
So like in like day-to-day life, like I don't like think about philosophy, but I've definitely spent a lot of time thinking about it, just trying to understand like why the fuck do people do this, because that is philosophy, like that's
Yeah.
part of it.
Well, then I have
Like,
a philosophical question for you.
all right.
Why did my girlfriend cheat on me?
Why did you have you ever considered that you weren't enough? Or Ricky, give me
Why did my wife leave and take the kids?
because it's how the government works, and of course
Yeah,
you're gonna give it to the woman.
no.
I don't know, no, do you have any like genuine questions though?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Alright,
just
I'm
trying.
back.
Okay, I'm so bad at like starting a conversation about anything, but like once somebody says something, I can kind of keep the ball rolling. I don't know.
Whatever you do not put my
Do you have
name
any?
in this
Do you have
frickin'
any weird takes on?
stream.
You're not. Do you have any maybe like hot takes on religion? I always found religion to be such an interesting topic for me because
I genuinely think
I don't like
religion.
talking about religion.
I don't like talking about religion because I don't know a lot about it, but I have a lot of very funny and like perspectives on it that can't be proven wrong, and that's why I like it.
I don't think.
One of them,
Yeah, I think that's like the whole thing with religion, right? Is that
one of them, I think that Jesus, it is hypothetical, right? That Jesus was actually just schizophrenic, right? Because listen, the whole point, right, was Jesus was born from the Virgin Mary, right? Isn't that like the whole thing?
yes,
Right?
virgin
Okay.
birth? Yeah.
So she was like, I've never had sex, blah blah blah, right? She could have been schizophrenic, right? Schizophrenia didn't just pop up out of like nowhere, obviously. It's kind of just like a thing that happens, you know? Schizophrenia is a very, very, very genetically dependent like disorder slash disease, whatever you want to call it, right? That means that Jesus could have also had it, right?
So wait a minute. So
I don't think
schizophrenia.
Jesus had schizophrenia.
But how would you know?
Well, the Bible says that Jesus was a perfect man.
Yeah.
But I think that. But
he's the one who like influence those ideas. No.
Yeah. See, that's the thing with
Well,
like
Jesus didn't write the Bible.
I think
The Bible is
No,
written by people who experienced Jesus.
I think
Yeah.
love him or hate him, I think Ben Shapiro made a good point is that he's a very religious Jew. He never uses the Bible as an argument. Like he never uses anything out of the Bible as points in an argument because not everybody believes in it. It's something that you believe in or doesn't, you know what I mean? Like not all of it is fact. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I see.
So like it's
I
kind of
see
hard to
Bible as
use.
fact.
It's kind of hard to say, well, the Bible says, well, what if I don't believe in the Bible? For example, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, I
also,
think-
I
the
think
Bible,
I think
My view is the Bible
historical
is a first-hand historical narrative.
it's not. It's not though.
It is though.
But it's.
but
the
it's
Bible's
so
been
not
changed.
firsthand, right?
It's literally not firsthand.
It's
The
changed
Bible-
because of interpretation,
Okay, but your interpretation, right?
translation.
Okay,
It's purposely translated.
so if you
You know,
translate
they
or
discover
interpret things,
words through
different.
research.
Okay, but if you interpret or change things, right? It's no longer firsthand. It's now third person.
Do you
That's
think-
not how
No,
primary and
but- okay.
secondary sources work?
But it's literally as soon as you change it, you would have to have the original, right, for it to be a first-hand experience, right? As soon as you interpret it or translate it, isn't it now a second-hand experience? Because it's not the original. You can't call something that isn't the original the first-hand experience. It's not how it literally
Well,
works, right?
the Bible is a historical recollection that includes both primary and secondary recollections. Primary meaning it happened then and there. Secondary, it's someone else writing about what happened then.
But just because somebody says something happened firsthand in the Bible is no longer a firsthand source. So how can you know, does that make sense or no? I'm talking about the Bible as a
No.
whole. I'm not talking about what's inside of it. Okay? You have this book, right? I write an autobiography. Okay? I write an autobiography in whatever Latin, right? Okay? Somebody then translates it, right? But there isn't certain words that mean everything. You can't give the exact meaning. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, because you cannot relay the exact meaning because you do not speak the language, it has to be translated. A translation changes or alters something. That is a literal definition of a translation, is to change something, right? Because I am now changing it, it is no longer a first-hand experience. Like, it is no longer, that is the definite truth of what happened.
Well, then I guess the question would be then how far do you think it actually changed from the
Well,
original?
think about how old it is. And there is literal proof in history of the fact that people have altered their religion or their perspective of whatever, you know, it may be, Christianity, Catholicism, I don't fucking know all of them anymore, right? Or like the Bibles at the time to meet their own narratives.
Yeah.
Like there is like definite truth in the fact that that's happened.
I hate to interrupt in this very intellectual discussion, but I have to wake up at 8 a.m. and I need to go to bed.
Yeah, you're fine, dude. You're good. Thank you for your
All right.
insight and stuff. So that was good.
No
I think
problem.
that
So,
was
do you
genuinely
think,
good.
Hey, this
do
guy
you
couldn't
think
come up with a
do you still think
counterclaim. He went
college
to bed.
uses- No, that's not how it works. I'll talk more tomorrow, but
Okay.
Man.
do you still think a college degree is useless?
I never said it was useless. I
I
just
was
said
talking
I thought liberal arts was stupid because you couldn't explain the idea, like the reason or the benefit behind it.
Yeah, but he's not taking liberal arts, so I mean,
Well, I am. I've been
Well,
working
What?
at
I
this
think
stipulation of the school.
what's it called? If you're doing college and that's all you're doing, it's not bad. Okay? Nothing is like inherently bad as long as you choose something in your life, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do as long as you're doing something and you have a goal, it's fine, right?
do you
College is what my parents told
I
me I wanted
just-
to do. If I want
I-
to do whatever I want, I would have started becoming a pilot right out of high school. So
I just
do you think that there
when you
are some
say
useless degrees?
yes,
dude,
they're
psychology
very
is
are.
literally psychology, bro. Like what?
Psychology is a very useful degree because you become a
Psychology is useful.
psychologist.
Psychology is useful if you like get like a PhD. It's not useful if you get like a fucking like bachelor's in it.
Oh, it's 100% useless if you get a bachelor's.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Most people get bachelors in it, and it's fucking useless. But
Yeah.
also, I think when you try and say like, oh, people with college degrees make more money, and you try and like almost like, what's the word, like degrade anybody who doesn't have a college degree, I think that's stupid.
Oh, yeah, I see that. I can see
Like,
that.
in my head, that's like fucking retarded. Because when you bring up statistics saying, oh, people with degrees make more money, right? Sure, they make more money, but not all income is reported, and not all degrees are reported. Because not every you can't get an accurate representation. All censuses
Man,
aren't
love
true.
tax evasion.
But also, it's just like all censuses are like they aren't 100%. We know that. Like it's literally just
Like
it's no
presidential polls.
yeah, it's just everybody knows it's not actually like 100% true. So like you can try and use that, you know, but then also when you're using it like information from somebody who might have a like exterior motive or like narrative, like it kind of like degrades your point even more.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like you're just like
Yeah.
using a statistic and you're using that as like the valid for your whole argument. You're using a single statistic, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I
That's
think
stupid.
I think I think we probably all share this point of view is that if you're going to go to college or university or whatever, go for something that you know that you can get out of there with and go get a job with, right?
Yeah, well, when I first went, I history, at least from what I've been told by the careers department, is it's a very versatile degree. I mean, you don't just you learn one of the primary skills of being a history major is that you learn to write, and
Yeah.
I write for the school newspaper and
Yeah,
everything, and
you can get out of there and be a
you
journalist.
could do a lot of other journalism jobs, and I've looked at a lot of other jobs with the athletic, yeah, that I could make it. You don't have to have a bachelor's in journalism to have that. You just have to have journalism experience.
To get in
And
with the athletic.
journalism, uh, it has to be for certain jobs. You have to have like at least 5 years of journalism experience, which I don't.
Yeah.
I have about 3, but I don't know if you could count the school newspaper as actual journalism.
I
But
mean, why not though?
I don't know. It depends.
I mean, that sounds.
Anyways,
Journalism.
All right, well, we'll let you go.
This guy wants to go to bed.
I know
really gotta go.
I know, bro's got to
I have to
sleep.
fly a 4-seater aircraft at 10 a.m.
We're gonna go talk about retarded things now. Have fun.
Alright, don't put my name anywhere in this freaking stream.
So,
Not that anybody's watching.
do you think semen, right?
Oh my god,
Alright,
no, let's
I'll end on
not.
that note. Alright.
Let's not talk about it and say we did, huh?
There we go. All right, that was the idea, to be honest.
Anyway, no, we've got a few
This
viewers
woman is
here.
just still texting me.
You mean your girlfriend?
No.
Oh.
No, man. No, my friend group is like mostly girls, to BH.
Oh, that's kind of gross.
Yeah. It
Not
was weird,
because
like,
no, that's gonna be taken really wrong. Not because I hate women. That's stupid. I'm saying.
Don't get me wrong. I'm extremely misogynistic.
No. No.
What's the point here?
I think when you have a girlfriend, why is your friend group women?
Well, no, it's like her friend group.
Oh, that's completely different then.
I'm just friends with them as well.
That's completely different.
No, I'm not like not like that.
Okay.
No, I'm
Is
also like I don't really have like a single friend group, you know? I just talk to a lot of people and I'm really good friends with a lot of people.
yeah, of
you know?
course.
Like when people are like, "Oh, I have a best friend." It's like, "Yeah, me too. I have like 5 of them." Like, what do you want from me? It's like that type of shit. So like
Yeah.
I like kind of just like float around like different types of people.
Yeah, I think a
And
lot of people do that.
for like this friend group, it's more like the social people.
Yeah.
Just
What
because
what do you think about people having friends of the gender that they are attracted to while they're in a relationship,
I think it's not an issue unless like you're just like
unless it is an issue,
well,
right?
I mean, like
Basically.
if so, what you're saying is if it is an issue,
What
if it
like
wait, I'm
if
confused. What's
if
the
it
question?
does become an issue, like in terms of honestly,
Yeah.
I think
Okay, well, I'm in one of those issues right now, and it's not my fault.
okay, so no, not I know, but they're her friends.
Yes.
That doesn't count.
Got you. Okay. Oh, no, I see what you mean.
So okay,
And like,
so I'm saying outside of anybody that you two know,
mm-hmm.
like having a friend of, in this case, the opposite gender.
Well,
I never understood the point of that because you're already with that, right?
well,
Isn't
also, like,
isn't that a relationship's goal? That's why I
well,
never understood the point of having girls that were friends while I was dating. I just didn't need it. Like I already had a friend, you know what I mean?
well, I don't like see everybody in like that light. Like, I don't just like, what's it called? I don't just like generalize every single woman to being like relationship. You know, like there's plenty of people which like I'm like friends with. You know,
That you would never
but like
date.
that I wouldn't date. You know, and like
Yeah.
that's fine. But like you don't have perfect friends. You know,
No,
the whole
no.
point of like a relationship, right, is to like try and like go past a friendship, you know?
Yeah.
And like, but also like in a way, it's more of like the feeling is more past like a friendship, but like the way it logistically works out is way different,
Yeah.
obviously. Because like
W-
most people have friends like for their entire life, but then they get a girlfriend, they have no fucking idea what to do, or vice versa. They get a
Yeah.
boyfriend, they have no idea what to do, other than like what they've seen in like movies and shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
Like
I
the medias.
I think people's argument against you know, like I guess the main thing would be girls having guy friends or whatever, because I know that's like a main topic of people's discussion. I guess what that would be uh why do they need another man's attention? Is their man's attention not enough, basically?
Well, if
But then
you
but it could but
you kind of have.
it's a different attention though, right? I mean,
Yeah, it is a different attention, but like the way it works for me, it's very weird because for like that whole friend group, it's all like one, you know? So it's very easy for me, right? For example, while I was still with my ex, right? Um, my ex and my girlfriend now are friends. They don't talk a lot,
oh
but like they
weird.
know each other and they're
Oh
cool with
boy,
each other.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
a weird.
they aren't like besties, like at all. Like they're not even close. They
I
just
don't
barely
even
talk to each
think,
other.
dude, I couldn't.
See, I don't know. But anyways, I'm not saying I'm right, you know?
No,
But
it's
like,
not your this isn't your problem. This is like it's just funny to me that you can be friends with your partner's ex. I never understood that.
yeah, well, I
Maybe
mean,
may
they aren't, like I said, they aren't really friends. They're just friendly, you know?
yeah,
They
yeah,
probably
yeah.
talk,
Yeah, but they don't
they
hate each
probably,
other.
no, they probably talk to each other maybe like fucking like once every 2 or 3 months,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
whatever. Yeah.
Like, literally
I
whatever.
yeah. I think my last relationship probably warped my perception of things in terms of relationships in general because I got so fucked over, but um where was I going with that? I hate having ADHD. Bro, I need Adderall.
This guy.
Yeah. I don't know. I just always I just always thought it was such an easy way out, you know what I mean? Like you know, if you ever wanted to leave, boom, your replacement's right there.
Well,
Or
here's the
the
thing.
replacement.
If you spend, like, okay, my example, 9 months in a relationship with somebody, right?
Mm.
And
Or
you're
four and a
just
half years.
friends with, and you're friends with somebody, right?
Okay.
For 9 months as well. We'll say the same times, right? The person you're in a relationship with, you should, if you do a relationship well, you should have a way deeper emotional connection with that person than you should with the person you've been friends with for 9 months. You know?
Yeah.
Okay. And just because like that other person exists, right? If they are putting like your relationship at jeopardy, you are doing something wrong. There is something wrong in your head, you know? It's either you're doing something wrong or your partner's doing something wrong to make you feel that way.
Why am I still descending?
Yeah.
You know, like there
Mhm.
has to be something wrong. Okay, because
Yeah, yeah, of
there
course.
shouldn't be a reason why you just, whatever reason, all of a sudden have feelings for this other person, which you have way less of an emotional connection with,
Yeah.
more than your partner.
Yeah,
Like
of
that doesn't
course.
make sense. There has to be
But it's
something.
never all of a sudden, you know what I mean? It's always
Well, obviously it's like, but
over
sometimes it
time.
is all of a sudden.
It could
You
be.
know,
It could
but
very well
also
be.
it has to come from somewhere, obviously. But what's it called?
Where are you going?
Whenever you like, hmm, for you to let it to get to the point where like it genuinely puts something at jeopardy, it means you have to have put in thought into it. You either have to have put in thought into it or you're fucking stupid. You know?
Yeah.
And like you just don't care. But at that point, if you're stupid and you don't care about your relationship you're in the first place, then you were fucked from the start.
Yeah.
You know? So like it's kind of just like a, but like then again, that, oh, I don't have a reason, because of the fact that you don't have a reason, you have a reason. Does that make sense?
Uh
Like
yeah.
like if it just like happens for like no reason, like you're just like, oh, now I like this person more,
Yeah.
for like no reason all of a sudden, that means that there was an issue that you just can't think about,
Okay.
you know? And like I wouldn't just like base everything off upon one experience, obviously,
No, I know, of
but
course.
like, how
The
like,
only reason why I do is because that's the only experience I have
yeah, no, you're good.
in my
Um,
situation, for
but
example.
like,
I'm not referring to me in any of
yeah, no, you're
this
chill.
to cover my ass. I'm just saying that. But
No, I get it. I'm
um
not like sitting here judging.
yeah.
What's it called though? Like, but then that also puts into perspective, right? The person in your relationship, I don't know why I'm saying perspective, that word doesn't work here at all. Um, anyways, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you have to understand how they're thinking, right? And you have to have trust in them. Like, literally, like, sounds cheesy. Relationship is trust, You don't trust someone, how can you be friends with them? You
But
can't
it is
trust
though. I
someone,
mean,
how can
yeah.
you date
No,
them?
that's
You know?
yeah.
So sometimes you do have to have blind trust, right? But it gets to a point where you can't have blind trust anymore. Because what you start doing is you just start gaslighting yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's just mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
Like you can have blind trust to a point, but when things just keep on going, you keep on believing, and then, oh, whoop-de-doo, now like you figure out, oh, you were lied to. Why did you trust somebody? That's why people are like, why did I trust her? Why did I believe anything she said? You then get into that whole point, then you get depressed. So you can't let that happen. You shouldn't get to that point ever.
How do you not let that happen? Like how do
You have
you
to. Okay,
133.0.
like after
somebody.
after going through something like that, like um people
Busted approach, but TK
people will
62
lose
was
trust in like a lot of people, like
Like,
everybody around them, I think.
how do you have
Sometimes.
trust in people after something like that happens to you?
Yeah, yeah.
We got Sierra 3003. What's
I
your
think my
answer?
answer would be you can't
You want a different VC? Because he's playing. It's if
uh
you're
we
aware, he's playing
could
Pokemon
we
Go. Go for it.
could give me one
Or just
second.
I can just mute or turn his volume down. Never
Hang
mind. Anyways, okay. So you're saying, how do you have trust in people after something like that happens to you?
Yeah. How would
Just
yeah?
anybody in
How would
general?
you no?
Or like
How
in a
would you go about trusting a partner again?
after trusting a partner again?
Yeah.
You have
If
to
you're
look
in
at.
a similar if it goes into a similar situation, how would you?
Well, there's always like a point of no return for everything. I feel like, especially like mental things or anything that could grow gradually, and relationships are gradual, which means that it applies here. Whenever you have like trust in somebody, right, you just believe what they say, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody, especially this fucking like like age, like you have some conscious, goddammit, you should be able to understand why this is like suspicious. But as soon as somebody just says this, and then you believe it, it doesn't mean you immediately just clear all suspicion. You know, like I kind of like I go through things, and if somebody can't explain something to me well, right, and the reason isn't I can't remember, like if it's just they cannot explain it to me, I'll be like, well, that doesn't make sense, because if this was your life, and I'm not trusting you for some reason, right, and you're giving me conflicting information, why would I believe you? Like it's just more of a like, how would you believe anyone? If the reason is solid, if it's like a good alibi almost, it's okay. You're allowed to trust them, right? But that's not saying like deep dive into everything, like like why were you there, like like why didn't you tell me you were going out, that type of shit. That could
Yeah.
lead to a toxic relationship. It's like there's like two ends of it. It's either just you just lied to each other and then you like are like you get cheated on and it's like why the fuck did I believe her, or it just gets toxic and it's like where are you going, were you going out, I need your location, who's gonna be
Yeah.
there, you know so that's
How do
kind of the two
you
things. You just gotta find the
um
median.
how would somebody like after getting cheated on with their next partner not fall into the whole like being super toxic towards them and needing like constant reassurance that they're not gonna cheat on them and they're not doing bad things and blah blah blah.
You have to realize that everybody is different. There is a lot of similarities between people. Everyone acts in a similar way. Everybody has baselines. Like, I have guidelines for a person in my head. Okay?
Hmm.
Whenever I'm speaking with anybody, right, I have a like a schema, right, about how they're gonna act, right? Because I have this schema, it helps me a lot because I'm like, oh, normally a normal person here would do this, okay? And if they do something which isn't in my head considered normal, right? I make note of that. I'm like, okay, why did they do that? So then I try and figure out why did they do something abnormal. They either have a good reason or a bad reason, and like or just have a reason, like, oh, why did you do this instead of that? Oh, I did this because blah 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 blah. And it's not always I'm saying it, but like I
Yeah.
just figure it out, you know? Like I think in my
Pause
head,
for 1 second. Sorry.
you show.
Okay, sorry. Continue with what you were saying if you can remember.
One sec.
How long have I been going here? Oh my god. Hour and
So
oh man, dude, I'm in the red with my frames. Okay, continue.
yeah, you're chill. Um, so because I have this general schema, right, of like how people act, right,
Yeah.
that helps me a lot. Like everybody has a general schema though. That's how
Yeah.
you like feel suspicion, right? In my head, it's just a lot more sophisticated. Well, at least I would think, or like I've like noticed, not like as
Mm.
like an ego thing, but whenever I talk to people and like I explain my thought processes, they're like, "Wow, I never would have thought about that." It's like, "Wow, that's weird," or like that's crazy. I don't think that way. So in
Yeah.
my head, I find my general schema a lot more sophisticated than other people's, right? Um,
Why do you think that is for you?
because I put a lot more time and effort into understanding it.
Why did
Like
you
if
want
I
to
like,
in the first place?
what do you say?
What drove you to do that in the first place? Did
Abuse as a
something
kid.
sorry?
Abuse as a kid. Growing up, not
Gotcha.
understanding why my parents did certain things because they were alcoholics when I was growing up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's kind of like what's it called? Do you know the difference between positive and negative reinforcement in a child?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you use reinforcement, right, there has to be a reason. Okay, if you use reinforcement, right, but you don't give like a reason, like in your head, there's reinforcement. Okay, sorry, I don't know why I said the difference between positive and negative because I was saying good and bad. That's not how it actually works.
I know what you meant.
Whenever
I
you
yeah.
whenever you give reinforcement to a kid, they have to understand why it's happening. If you just give reinforcement to somebody or something and you don't explain why it's happening, it confuses them, you know?
Like telling like for example, telling a kid to not do something, is that what you're
Like, what's it called? You can use animals as an example, or literally kids. Like, if you were to beat a kid or an animal from growth, like for no reason, right? just for no reason, it's gonna now be scared of everybody. It's gonna be very skittish, you know? And like if you just like yell, it's gonna like try and be quiet. Like, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's just scared because it doesn't know why this is happening to it, you know?
Yeah.
Now, if it were every single time a very specific thing happened, right? And you explain that to the kid, right? The kid's gonna like obviously not do that thing anymore, right? But if you just keep on doing it without explaining the reason, the kid's just gonna assume that
Like,
you
what
hate
they
it.
say? What they say? Fuck me for? Like,
Hmm?
they're like fuck Ti, fuck Melly.
It's
Fuck it. Like, why the fuck
Anyways,
they?
it's Mason.
What
Anyway, so
but
back to
Rick, so like if you like, okay, if you were to beat a kid every single time you take a cookie out of the cookie jar, it's gonna stop taking cookies, okay?
yeah, yeah, of course.
And you explain to the kid, stop taking cookies, and it still does it, and then you beat it, it's gonna know it's because it's
Yeah,
a
I
cookie.
wish I was hit more
But I
as
think
a child.
Now, if you were to just hit the kid, right, just randomly, let's say it takes a cookie, you beat it, right, and then like it even does something good, like it takes out the trash, and then you still beat it, it's just gonna assume you hate it. Like the kid is gonna assume that you hate them. That makes sense, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Do
like,
you
There's just no logical reason. Go on.
of
Yeah,
course.
I'm
Why
gonna spank my kids. I'm gonna spank my kids.
that okay.
No, like on some dead ass shit. Like I'm going to like because
Mason, you've been like deafened this whole time, right?
yeah, what
Yeah.
the fuck?
We're having like a super serious conversation right now.
I know, and I'm getting
I
serious
think
with y'all now.
he's I think he's being 100% serious. Also,
I'm going to
Jack,
hit my
I'm
kid.
watching
My
if you're
kid-
still watching. Hello, Jack. Anyway, continue.
Wait. Oh, you're live streaming still?
Yeah, I'm
Fuck.
still live.
No, but like, dude. Okay, look.
Oh no.
This is my take. What you can't know this, bro. If you let a kid, if you give a child too much ground, like if you give them too much leeway, they're gonna take it every bit of it and more.
But can't you do it other than a physical way?
No,
Sometimes.
You can though.
I mean,
Well,
you can. It doesn't always
I
work.
guess. But like,
My
I'm not
parents
gonna
never
force-
laid a
I'm not
hand.
gonna-
That's not true. But they didn't consistently, like, my dad didn't consistently beat me. Like, I never
Well,
got
I'm not-
spanked as a kid. You
The
know.
whole point. Well, the whole point isn't like the physical. The physical isn't the important part.
It's the
The important part-
Exactly.
No, listen. The important part to people is the fact that like they have to like almost like learn a place. And so for a lot of people, it's a very, very easy way to show authority is through like physical because it's very primal. It's very easy for everyone to understand.
Yeah,
But
but
there are other ways to do it. It's
But
just
like,
like
but what is taking a phone? Like, I'm gonna take your phone away. What the fuck does that do? I'll fucking get another phone.
it doesn't.
do it.
That's not.
well, that's the whole point.
Words can be powerful, I think, and I think that this is the issue with parenting nowadays is that a lot of them are hands off. I think not in terms of beating their kids. I'm saying they're they're hands off in oh, well, you did this, all right, phone's gone. They don't ever explain, okay, this is why this is wrong, blah blah blah. They don't ever have conversations with their kids, and they also don't listen to their kids. They don't I know a lot of people like this. Their parents never listened to them. It was always their right, the kid's wrong, and there was no conversation.
That's kind of what I've just been talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Just in like
Well,
a different way.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe not when they're little, you know, because kids are stupid, right?
Because it was really
But-
easy. It's a
yeah,
very,
yeah,
very easy analogy. You know?
Yeah.
Because like it's very childish. So if I put it in the form of a literal child, you will understand it. Now,
Yeah.
If I say that as like a 14-year-old,
Mm.
right? You're gonna like start thinking about, oh well, blah blah blah. They're thinking about this. Like, no, that's not the point. I'm trying to get like this very, very slim part of it.
Yeah.
So if I put it in a like a perspective, like I put it in a setting
Mhm.
that's more almost like optimistic towards the view I'm trying to like, you know.
No, I
instill
know
in
what you were
them.
doing. I agree with you on those things, but I think maybe what I'm saying is maybe as the kid gets older,
There should be more conversation.
I think there should be more conversations. It shouldn't just be like a
But also-
open and shut.
It shouldn't be. I think the issue with people though is they're also way too emotionally charged. They don't think all their shit through, you know. So that's
Yeah.
especially like people would be like, "Oh, we tried to talk," like they just want to argue. Well, that's your issue.
Well,
The issue is you
let
didn't
me.
try and talk. You tried to argue. You
Yeah.
tried to oppress your view. Give me a second, Mason. You tried to oppress your view on the other person. You got mad that they weren't listening to you because they were
Yeah.
trying to oppress their view, and now you're arguing. Like the whole point isn't to argue. The whole point is you can sit down, put emotions to the side for the second, and just talk. Most people can't do that. To
Do you
them,
think
they'll
it's
feel
possible to do it with your kid?
yes, it is definitely
All
possible to do
right.
with your kid. I've done it with my parents.
Okay, Mason. Before Mason's ADHD ass brain forgets, go ahead.
I look. I can relate to where I was because I was raised by my grandparents, and there's a little bit of disconnect there by being raised by people that are 60 years older than you are,
Yeah.
and I have experience where you we sometimes we agree on things, but a lot of the times we don't. Like I look at things very differently than they do, and there's a whole lot of argument, but there's not a lot of conversation, like sitting down and talking about
Yeah.
Mhm.
it.
Do-
It's both sides. It's ignorance from me, and it's ignorance from them too.
Yeah,
yeah.
I completely agree with that. Like I said, like that happens a lot, and I like as soon as like you start talking about it, like I can like name multiple examples of where it's happened with like me and like my dad, for example.
But I feel like with you with you it'd be less common because he's closer. I mean, he's not. How old is your dad?
Age is definitely a factor, but like
Well, I
also
mean,
yeah, like
I know, and like
my
how
dad's
they
like
were raised, and like how,
45.
and like, yeah. I mean, my grandfather is 80, and he's the father figure in my life.
Yeah.
He's what I looked up to my whole life.
Mhm.
But we don't we don't. There's a lot of things we don't see eye to eye with.
Also, yeah, but no, I completely understand. What you're saying though can completely relate to me. I feel like what you should be talking about more, because you're saying ignorance, and that is true, right? But also, you haven't said like
Can't
ignorance.
hear you. There's a fucking pilot in the
Yeah,
call.
I have him down like to like 30%. What's it called though? You should be more talking about like the ego factor, not the ignorance itself, because ignorance can just be one form of
Mm,
unwilling to accept, right? But as soon as you add like the ego factor, you go into like a little bit of depth in it.
true.
He's 80. He's been alive for 80
So
years, bro. He's like literally like 4 times your age. He of course he's gonna think he knows everything way more than you do, And like that's not even like me just assuming how he acts, bro. Like I mean like if you were like 4 times someone's age, like if let's say I'm 20 right now, I'm 18. Let's say I'm 20, bro. I look at someone who's 5 years old. Now try and tell me I'm not gonna look at that person like they're a retard. Like I
well,
can't. I couldn't tell like with certainty. Like I
I'm
could
gonna
not look like that.
So do you
I'm gonna
so do you think that old people look at us like 5-year-olds? Is
Oh,
that
they
what it
definitely
is?
do. They've literally
Okay.
said that.
yeah.
I know so many older
Yeah.
people who said that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use this example. You know me. I like NASCARs. They go left, they go fast. He he watches it too. But we butt heads about it all the time about like certain things in it. And
What, like what drivers do and stuff or what?
yeah. And like the thing that happened last weekend with Austin Dillon and all that.
What was his opinion
He
on the Austin Dillon thing?
he thought it was fine. He like cause well, but that's like he has so many like terrible takes in my opinion about things. Like we'll be at the dinner table talking about it, and like we will literally like we will like argue with each other about it, and I'll be like,
About
how?
NASCAR?
Yeah, I'll be like, how do you even come to that conclusion?
What can you besides the Austin thing? Like what else does he say? Because this is interesting to me.
Name name something that's happened this year that I don't know. I can't think of it off my head.
Name something that has
that's
happened this year.
because I mean he knows.
Does he hate Joey and Denny?
Yes, yes.
Well,
yes.
that's why he thinks it's okay.
Well, I know, but
Does he think? Does
but
he think?
my
Does he think?
uncle also hates Joe and Denny, but he also understands the part where that's not. I don't know.
That's not okay.
Yeah,
to do.
but my grandpa is like, that's fine. It's whatever.
Do you think it's because your grandpa has trouble seeing things from the other side?
Well, no, he. I don't. I think it's a lot of it to do with like he doesn't really care a lot because he don't really. The only reason he still watches NASCAR because I watch it. Like if if I wasn't around, my family, like my uncle and my dad and my grandpa, they wouldn't give a damn about. They were that family that when Dale Earnhardt died, it was NASCAR
That
was
was
the
it. Okay.
yeah. But like because I'm around and I like it's what I like. That's my passion. That's like the only reason why they care about it.
Well,
Um,
they like other forms of racing, right? Like dirt track.
the dirt racing, yeah, but
Yeah,
that's
they're
because
dirt
they did it.
racers.
They did it,
Yeah.
and like drag racing. My dad loves drag racing because he did it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, my dad grew up drag racing.
but no, like I don't know.
I'm trying to think of something stupid that happened this year.
But like it's not even NASCAR. It's like it's other things too, like football. We butt heads about football all the time. Like he'll say something about the Jaguars, and like it's like why, like how do you, what makes you think that, like why?
Yeah.
And then but then he comes around and it's like the same way around. He's like, why did you think that too? Like why? So I don't. It's
Sorry, repeat for both
but it's like ignorance. It's ignorance and ego on both sides.
Yeah.
And
Also understand not all ego is justified.
yeah,
Like that is something which you need to also understand. Like I said, if I saw someone who was 5 right now, I would think they're stupid, right? But that
But that's
doesn't mean
because they
that I'm
are
not. But
stupid.
but hey, but that doesn't mean that you aren't wrong. Because there's a lot of times where you can be older and you're still wrong just because you're unwilling to accept the fact that somebody else could be right because of that age difference, right?
Yeah. But that's the problem I feel like with the older generation is that they look at us like we are 5, but we aren't 5. We are adults.
Okay, but like I wouldn't say the older generation, just say older generations. Because when you say the, it's almost like you're referring to a certain age group.
I'm talking
Which is
about boomers. Honestly,
yeah, see, I know you are.
listen, boomers really aren't even a problem anymore, dude. It's Gen X.
But like
I feel like it's people 40 and up.
it's always gonna change.
Oh, of
you know?
course, of course.
But
I'm just
the
saying.
older generations because that's more prevalent. But what's it called? It's always gonna be like that to some extent, right? Because people are ignorant, but also everyone's ignorant to some extent. Everyone has ego, unless they're willing to admit it or not. Like
Do you think
especially in go on.
do you think that when all of us are 60, 70, 80 years old, we're going to look at people that are our age right now,
yeah.
whenever and
But
go,
I
you're
look at
dumb?
people my age right now, and I think everyone's retarded, bro. I'll be honest with you.
I think there's a lack of like wanting to confront somebody about something. There's a lack of
People are scared to like bring up confrontation. Is
yeah,
that what you mean? Yeah,
yeah, like
I feel that.
people you can think like you won't straight up tell somebody that you think they're wrong. Well, no, you will, but
Some people do, but not directly.
yeah,
They'll
I
say
think
them on.
I think this generation is or people around our age are filled with people pleasers, right? Is that what
Oh,
you're
for
trying to get
sure.
at?
sure. So I mean,
Because I think that too, and I'm not talking about calling somebody by their pronouns. I'm not even getting to that. I'm literally like trying so hard to be nice to somebody that because you don't want to hurt their feelings about something.
See, the way you
I
have
feel
to
like
like the way that I've gone about it doing it is I bring things up. Okay, so you know how I like talked about earlier, how I feel like I have a very good understanding how people like are, why
yeah,
they do
yeah.
things they do. That also means I understand people's emotions very, very well. I'm very, very like what's it called, empathetic. You know, I I'm an empath. No, I hate fucking using that term. I think it's the most retarded thing ever. But I understand people's emotions very well, right? But that's because I understand my emotions very well. But I understand my emotions very well because I understand other people's emotions. It just goes back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Do you think you have to be in tune with your emotions to understand others?
well, yeah. If you don't understand yourself, how can you tell somebody else how they think? That's
Yeah.
retarded. That's like the whole
That's
point
real.
of politics, bro. That's
I
why I
relate
hate.
to that shit so
That's why I
fucking
hate
much.
politics as a whole because or in by politics, yeah, no, actually, I hate politics as a whole, like most of the time, because people will try and say like stuff about somebody else, and like with utmost certainty, but then you ask them what they had for dinner yesterday, and they can't fucking remember, or like how they feel about a situation, they can't give you a solid answer. How are you gonna tell me how somebody else feels about something, and you don't even know the person, but you can't even tell me something about yourself with that same amount of certainty?
Mm,
It's just like I don't know if like
that's
you
really
call
good,
stupidity.
actually. Yeah.
That's a like I don't know what the word would be for that. I don't know. Can you even use ignorance there? Not really. It's there's a word, but
There's
I don't
some
know.
word floating out there that will,
But you understand the feeling,
of
right?
course, yeah.
And that's what I like the spiritual meaning. Like that's the term I like to use a lot. Like I can't understand the literal like words for it, but words I can't find the word to convey it. But you understand the spiritual meaning behind it, so that's okay. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
And just because the way you reacted, I know that.
I think,
Like,
yeah, I
But
think,
I feel like that not understanding yourself can like it frustrates like if I don't know where this like you get frustrated so you try I don't know I guess you try
project
well
or like
you try harder to find like I don't know I guess you try harder to understand I don't know
you
I don't
mean
know
like
explain
no, I know what you mean. I think I know what you mean. What you're saying is because you can't understand yourself, you try and like you move on to somebody else because you feel like, oh, I failed, I can't figure out my shit. Maybe I can figure out somebody else's stuff.
yeah. I
Is that what you mean?
yeah
think
Yeah,
a lot of
it's like
people do that.
adverse. Like I don't know what that's called. It's not repression. It's not regression. It's like I mean it kind of is projection in a form, but like I don't know. It's kind of just like running away from your problems. So that's the easiest way that I can explain it in like a way that I'm pretty confident in saying. But yeah, like that definitely happens, you know? Yeah, that's why I don't like politics. How did we get here?
I don't know.
well I also I want to go back to like the disconnect between like ages and
Generations.
stuff
Okay.
I feel like the way like media is presented today like it affects a lot more it affects your mental health a lot more
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that like with this older generation like doesn't really like connect with like so
Give an
i'm
example.
gonna, I'm gonna use my grandparents things again with the shit I've been going through the past like 5 years where like I don't know it's everything I've been going through like mentally and shit they don't they don't understand they don't get it they don't understand why they want to help but they have no idea why it's like why I'm like this why like they've never like experienced some things and like but they I don't know that's like it's like
You
a
keep saying I don't know.
well I don't know how to fucking explain it like
So take a second, think about it. You're allowed to not know. You're like almost like being like insecure with like your own emotions, bro. Like chill, you're allowed to talk about it. There's no reason to like sit there and say like I don't know and like not be confident in about it. Like think about it. It's chill. You're allowed to, you know? Does that make sense?
yeah
Like you're almost like I said, like
The
you're being
more
insecure
that
about
you're
it.
yapping about how he's okay to feel a certain way, the more he's forgetting what the fuck he was trying to say. I guarantee it.
No, I know he's not. I know
no
he's
no
not.
no 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 no
No,
it's just
like seriously, Mason. Like he's
they
chill. You're like I
they
can like I feel like I know like you're trying to talk. Just give me a second so I can say my little shits real quick. I feel like you're like almost like nervous to like talk about yourself in that way, and like it almost like seems like you're like ashamed for some reason. Like I don't
oh
understand why it's like I like
man,
sense like an
you don't even know
insecurity.
the half of it brother
Well, I mean, of course I don't, but like I can understand just from the way that you're reacting, there's something going on. which would make you uncomfortable to talk about it, you know?
Why don't you
But,
get into
like,
psychology? Or I mean, to be like a therapist or something.
me?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do that.
Oh,
I
okay.
wanna- it's like, it's literally that simple, bro.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
Else you don't make money being
what
a
just
therapist.
happened was I tried to use myself as an example, but then like I touched like a really deep part of
Mhm.
like shit that's still going on in my life, and like I kind of like started backtracking in my brain.
I can tell you got nervous, bro.
Yeah.
So do you
But
tend
like, I'm
to
trying to tell you, you're okay. Like, if you don't want to say it, just like chill.
Well,
Like,
it's
you're
not that I
allowed.
don't want to say it. I'm trying to like use it as an example, but at the same time, it's still something I don't truly understand.
I mean, bro, just talk to us about it. You're allowed to talk to us about it. I don't live near you. I'm not gonna judge you, bro. Like, even if I do judge you, it's not gonna be out of a place of hatred. I don't hate you as a person, you know?
Well, I don't want to get like I don't want to get real like right now while Ricky's like
I
streaming.
can turn the stream off right now.
Turn the stream
Well,
off. Who the
no,
fuck cares, bro?
no.
Who's
Yeah,
listening?
yeah.
Watching the stream? We're just chilling. We're just talking.
Why
you know?
I thought we were just like talking about stuff. I didn't think we were gonna like get like.
Where
real
well
about it.
we
I've
don't
been
I
real
mean we
the
don't
whole
have
time, bro.
yeah. You know,
What?
you wait, Mason.
Mason. Chill.
I hear that from you a lot, like getting real and stuff like that. Like,
'Cause
do
I
you
don't like
do you
it.
think
I don't talk to people about how I feel. That's part of the problem.
do you think
why
you
I'm-
put
why I
on
am the
do you
way
think you
now.
put on a face for people?
Yeah,
We all do.
100%. I
We all
always
do.
do.
Oh, of course we all do, but I'm saying like
More.
yeah, more than it normally
Like-
would be.
Yeah, dude, I've been stuck in the same place I've been for the past like 5 or 6 years, and I haven't gotten any better.
That's called.
And
Here, turn the stream off real quick. I'm gonna teach you some real shit real quick.
All right,
Mason.
guys.
Say your shit, bro. I'm gonna
Thank
say
you.